And Nobuo Tanaka, IEA Executive Director, thank you so much for being here.
You're most welcome.
You say you're seeing early signs of an energy technology revolution. What are some of the signs that you're seeing?
Well, we see many governments are using the stimulus package of the economy in a green way, the more sustainable project. Research and development in new technologies, or more incentives for the more efficient cars, more better appliances, housing. There are plenty of money spending on budget in the stimulus package, but it should continue. Well, other examples, many companies are now revealing their plan for the electric vehicle. It could be that this time it could be the real thing. And China is very eager to push this electric vehicle as their strategy, and putting lots of resources into the battery technologies, for example. So this is happening. And solar power plants, photovoltaic, I would say, plants or roofs on the roofs, many of these technologies happening in some of the European countries, windmills everywhere. So we are now observing this historic transition in the reality.
When you look at what governments are doing to facilitate this transition, as well as a private sector in the U.S. and abroad, is the progress at a pace that you are happy to see, or what else is needed?
Yes, that is exactly our message. It should be accelerated much, much more if we are really seriously pursue the halving the CO2 emission toward 2050. If this is our strategy globally, we have to really strengthen our effort. For example, research and development, yes, into the energy sector, it increased dramatically in the recent years. But we need much, much more, even double and 5 times more of R&D money for low carbon technologies necessary.
From government?
From the government.
Okay, so you talk about the bulk of the transformation being funded on the backs of the private industry, but if you could tell the U.S. government right now the top 3 policy changes that you would like, what would you say they are?
Well, for the energy sector, the low-hanging fruit is energy efficiency. So energy efficiency measures like housing sector, the more stringent code for insulation, or much more, let's say, stringent fuel standard for automobile. And then also another important thing is the global framework for carbon prices. So we sincerely hope the comprehensive energy and climate bill will pass the Senate as soon as possible. This sends a very important message to the global community of how serious the U.S. is moving into the future.
Energy efficiency standards, price on carbon. What else?
And then probably another important area is sending the very strong message of maintaining the momentum by putting the government R&D money into the energy research or deployment of low carbon technologies. Another area is decarbonizing power sector. Yes, the nuclear is important. Smarter grid, investment into the transmission, let's say, capability. It should happen. So these are the area which U.S. can lead.
And how do you incentivize the massive investment needed in those areas, smart grid and long-distance transmission?
Well, it is the way that the private sector needs to get a clear message about what is the future carbon price, for example. Or what is necessary incentives for the renewable sector, or what is regulation of the portfolio of electricity. So these are the kind of elements which government can set and show to make a stable and visible future. Without clear message of the government, private sector cannot invest huge amount of money.
Currently, it takes a huge amount of money going into the low carbon sources of generation, solar, wind, and others, while a lot of the fossil fuels remain domestic, abundant, and cheap. Give us what you think is the progression of fossil fuels as this transformation takes place.
Yes, this is important sector because certainly the U.S. very rich in these fossil fuels. So for the national security purposes, we have to depend on that. But we have to use it much more sustainable way. The carbon capture and storage is one answer for using more coal. And U.S. is leading in many pilot projects. We have found about 30 pilot projects in the United States already on this carbon capture and storage. So if you build the power plant, it should be most efficient one, ultra supercritical coal power plant or IGCC or whatever, and make it capture ready. By doing so, you can minimize the risk of say sustainability for the future. And transmission line, same thing. I mean, without knowing what is the future, it is very difficult to invest. So setting carbon prices, what is the future direction or portfolio requirements, these kind of policy must be clearly set in front of the power sector. Otherwise, they will not invest.
You do say that you see the continued use of fossil fuels for the foreseeable future.
Especially for the natural gas, because natural gas is the kind of bridge sources, because it has much less carbon intensity compared to the coal. So if these technologies of renewables, nuclear cannot really materialize in time, we have to depend on gas. So, but gas eventually should peak out, because if the new technology is really prevailing, then they have to peak out. But at this moment, we need the gas, and the U.S. is trying to utilize as much as possible these new resources.
And
yes.
You see that increasing?
Yes, definitely it is increasing. I mean, unconventional gas was found and developed, and this is a very, let's say, reliable source.
And now that the shale story is going global now, we have other countries developing their own shale resources as well. Is this a significant part of the energy picture?
Definitely, because of the we have to wait and see how this emerging economy like China, India using using gas. They are not the heavy user at this moment, but it's potentially there's a huge chance that these countries start using gas. So then the gas market could be different from what it is today. But yes, in China, in Europe, in Russia, in Middle East, yes, there are certain, let's say, researches on unconventional gases starting.
A final question. What would you call the biggest game changer for the energy picture, the energy technology world right now?
Biggest changer, yes, because of the, let's say, this climate change sustainability challenge is probably the biggest uncertainty at this moment. Of course, economic growth and other economic, let's say, outcome is important. For example, there's uncertainty in Europe, but because of the Chinese economic growth, certainly the energy demand will increase. But China may change huge, say, scope. So for that, China is a big game changer in the energy sector. But what does this mean from the climate change perspective? If China is moving toward more energy efficient mode, this will be also very interesting elements for the new technology deployment, like electric vehicle, etc. So we have to look carefully about these climate change elements and emerging economy elements together. Right. This is a game changer.
Mr. Tanaka, thank you.
You're most welcome.